Oh, hey everybody, welcome to Archetype. My name's Josh Herman. Today we're going to be sculpting a character. Actually, we're not going to be sculpting a character. That's what I say almost every single time. But we're going to be working on a character and the environment for the character in Unreal 5. I'm going to play a recap video here in just a couple moments, so hang on for that. But I'm going to basically be showing you the process of what I did last stream. I'm going to show you where we are now, importing the character into Unreal 5, getting it all set up. A little bit of a process doing that, so I'll also explain how I did that, what I had to do that on the way there. Um, Before I get really going into this, I see a couple people in the chat. Hi, everybody. Actually, you're on this side from me. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the chat. If you have any questions while I'm working, please let me know. And if the sound and music is too loud, or if I'm too loud, or if there's anything going wrong, let me know. Happy to adjust. Anyways, we're going to get started. In case you don't know anything about me, my name is Josh Herman. I've been a character designer, concept artist for the past decade or so, working at places like Marvel Studios, Naughty Dog, Legacy Effects, Cloud Imperium, etc. And I'm doing a series called in Archetype where I'm making one character every month for the next year. This is character number 2. So we're about a little over halfway through on this one. So I'm going to show you kind of what we're doing today. Anyways, hopefully I can get an answer in the chat if I'm too loud or if the music is too loud or if you can even hear me. But that's a somewhat important thing. So anyways, yeah, I'm going to show you what we got before we jump into the, actually, I was going to say I want to show you what I got, but I also want to show you the recap video first. So let's jump into that recap video. It's about 5 or 6 minutes long. That'll catch you up to speed on where I am, and then we'll jump right into it from there. All right, see you in a second. Hey everybody, so here is where we left off last stream. This is my pose A, the one with the kneeling pose, and here I'm getting ready to process and do the rest of the poses. So I'm going to do a pose B, C, D, and E, and then right here is going to be my pose B. Pose B is basically just a pretty standard walking pose that you would see any type of like a large giant or big character do. Often you'll see them walking in the distance or just kind of looming over the area. This is sort of supposed to be that gentle giant vibe. So this is something that I wanted to try out, even though I knew when I was doing it, it wasn't something that I would probably stick with. It just wasn't really my favorite one. But sometimes you got to try it to see it. This is going to be my pose C, so sort of just a stronger semi-clenched fist turned head pose, sort of like a hero pose. I do like this for the character, and I do think it works. Maybe a certain different vibe or something, I think it could work, but I end up actually deciding to go with kind of more the pose A, spoiler alert. But here you see pose A, B, and C, and at this point I realized I wasn't really getting everything I wanted, so I wanted to try a couple more. So here I'm going to do a pose where I'm actually going to put one of the humans or humanoids in the caregiver's hand. So I'm posing the hand really quickly, and then you're going to see me put in like one of those orbs, I guess, in its hand. At first I thought maybe it could just be holding the orb, but then I thought that was a little weird, so I go ahead and I put that character in there, and there we go. Now we have them standing, and they are sort of like in awe of whatever this object is that the caregiver is giving them. I kind of liked that they have like no faces, so I might continue running with that idea, just because it makes it more that this is sort of like a not finished society, that they're still kind of growing. Here you see just kind of a blank screen. Apparently I had some sort of a freeze that was going on. Oh yes, a crash. Thank you, Zbrush. So now you're going to see me loading up the rest of my sculpts really quickly, putting them into different things. And for my pose E, what I decided to do is take kind of a combination of my A and my D, and that was basically trying to put a character that would be leaning and looking at like maybe a couple characters or a character that's on the ground, but then picking one of them up and holding them. I still really like this idea as well. So any of them that are interacting with the humans I like quite a bit. And the nice thing about this is that since it's the same mesh, I can copy over the UVs once I have my textures all done, and then I can basically just put the textures on the other ones, redo the poses pretty quickly, and if I want to re-import them into the scene later, it shouldn't be a huge amount of time. So here you see all of my poses together, just kind of aligning them so I can evaluate them. So you can see my A, B, C, D, and E, and I'm just kind of spending some time deciding what I like. And like I said, I'm going to go very likely with pose A. So So you see me doing some quick exporting. So I'm going to do the FBX exporting using the FBX exporter. I'm going to import these all into Unreal. Why the FBXs are exporting, I'm going to check out the Quixel Bridge in Unreal 5. And here I am basically looking through all the different things, the foliage, and all the different landscapes. I decided I might go with this Iceland landscape. So here you see me downloading all those as nanites, putting them in a specific place. And then I'm also doing some multitasking here. I'm going to download all of the black alder trees from the Unreal 4 setup, but they're not compatible with Unreal 5, so I'm going to have to download them and put them into a migrated scene where I can then load them into Unreal 5. Here you see my Caregiver in Unreal, so I've loaded that in, and you see me now going in to download a couple textures, putting the textures on the character just to give it some color, and then importing some of those megascans. This is going to be a process that I'm going to do all stream today. So it's going to take me a little bit of time to do this, but right now what you see me doing is just playing with the initial layout. So playing with some of the settings, playing with some of the sky, the lighting, all this kind of fun stuff. But now I am playing around with some of the, I think it's the environment light mixer, which is a pretty cool tool. It's definitely giving some more alien looks, some more different types of looks, as you can see there, which I'm definitely going to enjoy playing with. But right now I want to have something somewhat standard so I know what I'm actually looking at. As I'm doing this, I'm also playing around with the composition, seeing what I could be doing, and I like that there's this kind of character here, but I need to have them standing on something. So soon you're going to see me grab that rock over on the right and start placing it around so that it can start to frame the composition just a little bit more. Turning on some environment fog. I love environment fog, and I probably will use that pretty heavily, especially with some cards. Here's that sort of place. I like the kind of compositions that I'm beginning to get with this. It's not showing off the character or characters that much at all, which is something I do want to adjust. But I was really unhappy with actually the Icelandic stuff there because it's just so bland and kind of white tan. So I wanted to get in something with a little bit more green. Went into the bridge, searched for 3D assets, and searched for the largest sizes, and this was one of the ones that showed up, which is actually also from the Icelandic thing, but was much more in the vibe of what I wanted. So I basically copied that, put it around, going to put this where the other thing was. Kind of working, not really. Then I'm going to put some more ground planes in here, and now we have our character set up and ready to go in Unreal 5. Today we're going to be working on our composition and our lighting. That's right, Josh. We're going to be working on our composition and our lighting. Thank you for setting me up with that. As you can see right here, we have back the character in Unreal 5, so this is live right now. This is basically where we were left off, right? So I can kind of move this around. I'll make this a little bit bigger so everybody can see. And this is the same exact thing that we were just looking at. So I have the basics of the character. I did end up importing, excuse me, a slightly higher res version with this green shader. This is all one FBX, so I can't really delete the character part out of it, so I'm just going to put it in there. But I kind of like how there's a contrast between this. So now we are in a good spot, and I've just kind of been playing around with where this character could go, you know, what some potential shots could be, like something like this, playing around with framing and lenses and all that kind of cool stuff. So I'm having a pretty good time getting this into Unreal 5, but obviously there's a lot to do. I see a couple people in the chat while that was going. How am I doing? Alex F1, hello. Thank you, doing very well. Thanks for asking. Hello from Istanbul. Hello, everybody. Rad, just what I needed to learn. That's awesome, Dakota. Definitely going to be working a lot on this, but there's a lot we can do today. So I'm going to show you a little bit of where we are behind the scenes. Quick question, is this a imported UE5 undecimated mesh high poly? This one right here, the green one, is somewhat high poly. I did play around with importing this as a nanite object, and these specifically are nanite objects. This gray one is not. The downside of importing a nanite object is it takes forever. It takes a very, very long time to import this stuff because you still have to import it as a static mesh. And so, for example, this character here, just this piece is 9 million polys. So that meant that the whole character, if it was at its high polys, was 27 million polygons. And I did try to import it, but it took so long that I couldn't really import it. So I basically found a middle ground. So in Maya, or this is actually the version that you're going to see here. So you're going to see this is what I exported. So this piece here is about 600,000. This piece here is about 100,000. And then this piece here is about 150,000 for both arms. And that's what I'm importing into Unreal. So it still has a good base of all that stuff. And is an Unreal 5 conversion. Yes, that is correct. If I were to make Iron Man again, would I use Zbrush or Maya? I would probably still use a combination of both, but probably more Zbrush than I did in the past. Good questions. So this is where we are at the Zbrush one. I've gone through and I've gotten this, and I'm going to basically today work on our Unreal 5 stuff and our texturing stuff. So we have our character in Unreal. We can spend a lot of time in this, and we definitely will. Something I've also done, I showed you that I downloaded the Black Alder set from Megascans. So there is another map in here. Go to maps and we'll load this zoo. I loaded this recently, so it shouldn't take forever. You can see these are all of the trees. It's gonna be a little choppy, but this is all of the trees that came in the Quixel set. And then this was me experimenting and playing with the Foliage tool. So this is all one grouping of trees, and I'm going to be able to place these on the mountain and stuff in the background. I can just delete these, and this kind of shows you the zoo very quickly. So what I can do now, because I imported this all into my scene. Now, in case you're wondering or you want to play around with this is pretty important. The tree set that Quixel released, that Epic released, is not a Unreal 5 compatible scene, meaning you can't download it and just throw it into Unreal. What you have to do is you have to download it, which, by the way, this scene is 8.5 megabytes, so it's going to take you a very long time to download it. Then you have to open it. Because it's 8.5 megabytes, it's going to take you probably 10 to 15 minutes just to open the file. Then you need to save it as a separate copy, which you basically need to open it in Unreal 5 or make a conversion for it in Unreal 5, which will also take you about 15 minutes to open. Then you have to migrate that scene into your finished scene, which is what I did here. So it took me probably about 45 minutes to an hour just to download this scene, open the scene, and put it into my Caregiver scene. So it was a lot of time to get it into this scene. But now that it is in here, I'm going to turn off the volume, the exponential height fog, just so you can kind of see a little bit more clearly what's going on. We are using Lumen, by the way, in case anybody's wondering. There's just multiple meshes here, which is why it looks a little odd.
This has been Emulators by KB Neo.
What is that sound?
I hope you enjoyed
What is that music?
Thanks for listening.
No. All right. What you can do with this now is I can actually paint in the Foliage tool. So I can activate the Foliage tool, and all I need to do is basically drag and drop the foliage in here that I want to use. So I can come in here, I can go into my Black Alder set, my geometry, Pivot Painter, or Simple Wind. I'm just going to use Pivot Painter. I can pick any one of these since I imported them into the scene. I don't need to drag and drop them from the zoo. Okay. So I can pick some of these trees. We'll choose maybe these really tall trees here. I will choose some of these thicker ones. Let's choose tall. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Drag and drop these here into your Foliage tool. And then if I start painting, you'll see that I will now have lots and lots of trees in this scene. It is slowing down my scene a lot to do that. So there's a couple things we want to do. First off, we want to change our paint density up here in the top left. If I crank this way down, like way down, and notice that it'll be a little bit lighter, but it still has the density of the trees really, really tight. So this is like a very, very low setting, so 0.01 maybe. And even then you'll see how tight it is. Second off is we need to make it not aligned to the normal, meaning it's taking the surface mesh and whatever the distance or whatever the angle is, like on this side you see they're going to point to the side, and this side they're going to point to the other side. We want them to function like a tree, so we want them to go straight up, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to click on some of these, and we're going to come over here and say align to normal, and we're going to turn that off. You do have to do that per piece. So click all these, click all these, click all these, click all these. Now you'll notice that when I paint, they're going to go straight up. I'm going to use this mostly as background dressing, But what you can see is now we can kind of introduce a little bit more scale for the character. So if I wanted to just quickly put a couple trees in here, so just populate this very quickly, we can get some fun, nice, high quality objects right in the front. And then we can also come in the back here and we'll just say, make our brush size pretty big, even bigger. Let's see if I can crash my scene and say this is the back of the forest. I'm going to fly back down in there. And we can kind of start to assemble this in a way that might be somewhat interesting. So we're going to play around a lot more with the foliage tool, the painting tool. Just to kind of give you a quick spoiler alert, what you can also do is you can come in here and this is going to be way too big. I would use other objects, but you can also paint trees or foliage on a static mesh. So I'm not going to use a tree on the character, but I could use vines or something smaller like that to do that. So we got to do a couple things today, or at least there's a couple goals we have. One, set up the environment a little bit more, figure out exactly what we're going to be looking like, right? Oh, I guess this would look cooler with fog, huh? Whoop. So fast, it's crazy. Right, so you can get some nice settings here. So we need to set up our environment. We need to get some trees going in there. We need to play around with our lighting a little bit more. And I also need to texture the character more. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with that as well. Jared Kraszewski's here. What's up, Jared? Nice to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Jared will be streaming tonight in Creature Corner. What kind of graphics card would you need at that minimum to paint that smoothly and not chug? I'm using a 2080, and I also have a bunch of other stuff open. I have Zbrush open, which doesn't really use your graphics card, but I have that open. I also have Maya open. I also have a bunch of other things open. I should get my screen recorder open. And then last but not least, I also have Quixel Mixer open. So I've imported the file here into Quixel Mixer. Sorry, you're going to see this for a second, so I can do that recap video for next time. And this is set up so I have 3 different texture sets, meaning I have my body, my arms, and my head. Each one of these will have their own unique textures. I've created and baked normal maps from Zbrush for these, so that's what you're getting when you see some of this detail here. Okay? So, today, our goal is, I guess I would say ambitious to say the least. I want to try to texture this character in Quixel Mixer. I want to then export it to the bridge, to the library, which I'm hoping can go into the Unreal 5 library. That will help me get this over. I'm texturing in T-pose, but because this should have the same UVs, I'll have to double, triple, quadruple check that. But then I should be able to just pop those textures on and have no problem. Second, we want to play around with the lighting and the environment. And then third, we want to play around with some more trees and make this nice and fun. Cool. So that's our goal for today. Hopefully everybody's doing well. I'm going to delete these trees even though they do look nice, just because I'm not quite done with this environment. I want to spend a little bit more time on it than just this tiny little facade. All right, let's start our screen recorder for next time. How long did it take you to get used to Zbrush and Maya? Joe asks from Twitch. It took me probably, how long did it take me? Maya, probably a year or so. Oh, didn't show. There we go. How long did it take me? I would say 6 months to get used to Zbrush, just because it's weird. And then probably a couple years to get really comfortable with Maya. I would say about a year to 2 years. Good question. When finished, will this be part of your portfolio? Yes, very good question, Corey from YouTube. For sale. I'm just putting up my ArtStation right now. This is going to be a part of a series that I'm doing on Archetype. So you're going to see this character here is the first one that I did in Archetype. So this is the creator. And again, we're going through all 12 of the literary archetypes. In case you don't know what that is, I'll show you my Trello board in just a moment. But basically, we're going to be going through all this stuff. So this is the one that we're working on now. Right now, we're kind of working on UVing and texturing. So I've been working our Caregiver character across the pipeline here. So we're in this step. Next week, we'll be finalizing this and doing our rendering and presentation. But in case you don't know what the archetypes are, this is the wheel of 12 archetypes. So we are doing the Caregiver, and we've already done the Artist, which is also known as the Creator. So eventually this wheel is going to be complete, but that won't be till the end of the year. So a lot of time to still work on this stuff. But yes, eventually this character will be part of my portfolio. So you can see a couple more shots here from what I did. This one I used a model from 3D Scan Store, and I actually rendered it in Marmoset Toolbag 4, which is pretty great actually. So yes, definitely will be part of the portfolio. Kind of creating a series of 12, and actually the idea behind this is basically I'm creating a pantheon, and so this is 2 of the deities in this world. All right, that was a lot of talking. Time to get working. All right, let's see. What should we start in first? I think we should start blocking out a little bit of Unreal, blocking out a little bit more of this world. So I'm going to turn the environment fog off. Well, maybe not off. I'm just going to turn the density way down, just so that this isn't black. I hate it when the background is all black. That basically means that there's nothing there. But if I turn it up even just the smallest bit, it's going to be kind of white. And I can play around with this later, and definitely will. If I want to adjust the lighting, I can just click this directional light here, and I can just rotate the sun. There's those 2 models sitting on each other, which are creating a kind of a weird effect, so I might need to just delete this one. I'll be losing those orbs, but that's okay. There's something weird going on in this model, though. I don't know if everybody's noticing that. All of a sudden, it just goes to black and like loses most of its shading, which is very odd. So maybe we'll just delete this one for now. Let's undo, undo, undo. Get those orbs back. You see this is the more low-res one that I was using. The cool thing about the environment fog and all of the sun settings that are here is as I rotate it, it'll adjust, which is nice. But if I go down over the horizon, it also changes the clouds and sets it up so that it's nice and, you know, correct. So pretty easy to use, which I'm very happy about. And I've been kind of just focusing on certain angles like this, and then rotating this around. Something you can do if you don't want to have to, quick tip I guess would be, you can open up a second viewport. So often I'll go view, window, viewports, and just hit viewport 2. That'll create a second one. And I can come in here and I can choose my perspective, and I'll choose my cinema camera actor. I can pilot the actor through here, hide that grid maybe. And we'll say like you're going to be here. Get this shot more specifically framed. A little odd in that one, but I probably need to adjust the field of view to not have some of these little things in front, but that's kind of working, right? But now I can come into this one, select my directional light, and rotate it, and then I'll be able to see. I can kind of have a working view and a small camera view there. Or if I want to say maybe it's a nighttime scene or a daytime scene, like what will it actually look like? So even this is kind of cool. Kind of digging that. But for now we'll work in a daytime lighting environment just so we can kind of see what everything's like. As the sun gets to the edge, it makes everything kind of red and purplish, which is cool. I love this look. Don't get me wrong. I think this is kind of more striking than the daytime scene. But to actually see what our textures are going to look like and all that stuff, I'm going to give it a little bit more beauty lighting for now. All right. In Unreal 5, the Quixel bridge is integrated, and it's super incredibly easy to get stuff in. All you need to go to do is hit Content, Quixel Bridge. That will open up the Quixel Bridge, which opened on my other monitor. You can see it here. So just drag it over there. It does take a little bit of time, and apparently I have to sign in, so no offense, I'm going to do that off screen. I think it's done. Great. I can come over here and hit Local, no assets. That should be a lie. There they are. 3D assets, and these are all the things I've already downloaded. Now I downloaded these all off stream, and I did download pretty much all of these as nanite objects, so they're super high res. The cool thing about this is you can just hit add. So I can take any one of these, like let's say there's this Icelandic terrain, which is pretty interesting. All you gotta do is hit add, and it will add it. The weird thing is it doesn't necessarily show you or tell you when it did it. So what you're gonna have to kind of do is basically just like click in the background of your scene. You can also dock this if you really want to. Oh God, I do not want to do that. Minimize that. Okay, control and space will open up the content mixer at the bottom, and then you'll be able to see it down here. So I know it's probably this one. I think it was not the volcano, but this terrain. Just drag and drop it into the scene, and it appears that that's what I already had in there before. These are all the other ones. You can just pretty much come in here and drag and drop this stuff however you want. Hit F to zoom to it, kind of see what it looks like. I don't really like these ones just because they're so bright, and I feel like this character, by the nature of the character and the idea of the character, should probably be more like green and lush. I could retexture them if I really wanted to, but I don't. I don't really want to. Alex F1 is taking Bobby Rice's environment class. That's cool. That's great. All right, let's get some more content here. Let's see. I can also get those trees and place them individually, but again, I'm not going to do that right now. If I want to add new stuff, all we got to do is go back to that bridge and download some more stuff or find some more stuff. So I have been liking this kind of style for this character. So I did get some of these bigger cliffs that have a bit more color to them. And like this sharp cliff is interesting, and this dolerite cliff is pretty interesting. So let's just get a couple of these and see what they look like. I kind of want it to feel like the person who got here is kind of almost on like the pinnacle of like a mountain or something. And so what I want to do is remove some of these and basically craft what that mountaintop could look like. Even if I have to scale some of these objects down and stuff, I think that's okay. So I'm going to play around with that. So let's go back to our bridge and get some stuff. Let's try this one. I think this is kind of interesting. So add. Huge coastal cliff, add. And then huge cliff, add. You'll notice that right here they're all nanite. And I do see that the stream is lagging a little bit when I do this stuff. My computer, whenever I click these buttons, stand up because it's doing a lot of work right now. And I'm even a little you can try to drag and drop these into the scene where they're really done adding. You'll get basically a notification or something like this that's saying, more or less, we're not ready for you to do that action. There we go. And then once it comes in, it'll pop in. And these look great. So I think I want the top of this to be different. I'm trying to find one of these that can kind of work for that. I'm just going to get these all in the scene. Oh, this one's cool. This one probably worked best for what I'm talking about. And this is, oh, this one's also super cool. For you a second, you thought they stopped working. That is probably just my computer working very hard to keep up with us. I liked before how there was like a peak So I'm seeing if one of these, like this one, has this little rock up top. So I like that. I'm going to try something with that. All right, let's just grab these ones he's standing on, push these all down, and let's start with this. I can always come back and move this little person around. Oh, that's a very oddly placed rock. But this is kind of cool. I wish it was from the other direction. So let's just mirror it. All right, let's take some of this. And let's just kind of bring this over here. The likelihood of me seeing all of this isn't super high. But to at least kind of make sure it's there, I think it's somewhat important. This one I'm just going to make huge. So we're basically going to make a mountain. I'm going to move this one way out of the way. What's cool about this is I'm basically playing with millions of polygons and huge texture sizes right now. This is like a facade, so I kind of need to scale this up a little bit, bring it down a little bit. This really is just like playing with Legos, which I really enjoy. This is really fun. You notice the texture streaming warning. What's the best workaround fixing it? Usually it will downscale textures. Being on a 30 series Titan card helps though. Yeah, I mean there's definitely it's saying I'm over budget, but you can define what the budget is. So for what I'm doing, it's not of a huge concern to me. You can just alt drag and that will duplicate a piece. So that's how I'm getting some of these shapes just very quickly. Where like that ground? I want this ground. I think I more just want this one like right here. So I'm just kind of trying to fill any holes. Again, I don't know if I'll actually see this. But at least I know that I won't like run into an issue where it's all of a sudden not working. I'm going to scale. Right now my scale snap is really high. Oh, that's not the scale snap. Which is the scale snap? That's the rotation scale. So I have a little bit more control. So we have an area here I want to fix really fast. Something in here. What is this? Pretty cool though. Oh, that's the whole thing. Let's just duplicate that again. And then let's make sure it fixes this problem over here. Thank you very much. You've been learning 3D and Cinema 4D in Blender, and if you're a major and you only learn the basics, yeah, if you're learning motion graphics, and you're learning cinema, typically, you don't have to learn too much of the other stuff, but it's always fun to do it. And now the weird thing is I need to find a bridge here, so let's see what we could use. I kind of like this cliff area that I made. That like the character here could be standing on, and eventually I think I want to take some of these and put them in the background. Let's just quickly take, I think this was a big one. Is this a wall? It is a wall. That's okay. Maybe we'll just like imagine what it's like over here. Kind of works. Let's get this big one. What was the big one we were using? This one. Let's push this kind of over here. I feel like my music stopped. It did. Now, right now you see my kind of settings over here. I'm going to make a folder called Megascans. I'm going to take all of these, I'm going to put them inside the Megascans folder. That way, yeah, we can hide all that if we need to. I can also now turn on the height fog, or the height fog's already there, but I can adjust the density. Before, it was at about this. So what I'm kind of looking for with these elements is just that there could be something there in the background. Right now it's not quite working. You can kind of see back in here is kind of what I'm saying, that there's a little bit of something in the background. So, yeah, this is kind of working. Let's turn off that height fog. We don't need it right now. I do really like this piece. I wonder if like they were sitting in the green. Something you can do is you can come in here. So let's do a quick test. I'm going to grab this thing in here, and I'm going to take the, I know that I like this one, and this one is the volcanic terrain, something 6. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to find that. I'm going to grab that and I'm going to drag it on here. It's not exactly the right texture, meaning like really at all. This is before and this is after. But for something that might just be in the background or different, it's probably fine. Like I would even do it probably to this. I was thinking about like creating some form of like a space for them. You can also do that with these two. I can put it on the character. Right now the character has some issues with its texturing, I think, for that to really work, but it works pretty good actually. But we'll do that in Mixer in a minute. This character's been moved. That one isn't really holding up, is it? I kind of like it with them sticking up. I think with the trees, it'll probably be more interesting. Alright, I'm going to save this. You can imagine that this is kind of where the character is. I can also go to that perspective and I can go to my Cine Camera Actor. This is a camera that has a blur on it, so that's why it's blurry. But I can come in here and say, like, I don't know if this area is working for me. I almost want to just like rotate it. Let's go back to our normal perspective, not our Cine Camera. Have to make some more adjustments, but I think I kind of just generally like this kind of a vibe. Let's select our camera, which is right here. We can scroll down on the right hand side. And we can adjust our current focal length. Focal length will push us in and out. The aperture, we can dial that will fix our focus. Of course, we can also manually dial in the focus and change it to whatever we want, or we can click this and say I want to focus on this person or this thing. But you can kind of play around with these settings for whatever works for you. Wish that this person was a little further, or that there was a distance in between the hand and the character, because right now I can't really see the difference, which is kind of annoying. So I'm liking this. I think this is like a good shot that I would probably want to do. I still do like something like this. So the nice thing about this being all in Unreal is that I can kind of come through and do and just like I did in Marmoset, I can create a whole little series of shots really simply. There we go. And then maybe we could take that, we'll do that second viewport. So this one will be the perspective, default, window. So this is not the cinema camera window viewport, viewport 2. Viewport 2 can go back to being this one. We can also make it a cinematic view, which is slightly different, but we're going to do this one. And that means I can kind of pilot these separately. And that will let me go into the directional light. And now if I wanted to play around with that lighting like we were talking about, a little odd that the sun rays would be coming up, but cool looking. You can see them casting a shadow over the sun, which is kind of cool. I love this color palette. I just need to find a way to get the lighting to feel like it's doing something interesting. And this might just be a secondary pass that I do with something that's more moody. I'll probably come in with some fog cards at a certain point too to give it a little bit more depth. And when I have more texture and detail, I think it'll help a lot. So, a lot of stuff to play with. I could always kind of put it behind them too. Some of these light shafts kind of coming in is kind of nice. So we'll play around with that. It does make it a little hard to see in the scene because of how the intense the fog is. So you see that's a little hard, but it is working and looks kind of cool. We'll turn off the fog for now, though. This is what it actually looks like. All right, I'm going to save this. And let's bring in, I'm going to hide this character. And I'm going to import into the level. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go to this. I'm going to go import. And I'm going to import. Oops. This is the one I'm sending to Quixel. So I'm going to build it as a nanite mesh. I don't need to really do much else. This is an FBX. It shouldn't take too long, but this is going to be the exact same file that I have here. And then we're going to start texturing on this. And then we're going to do a quick test of getting it exported to the bridge with some basic textures and re-importing it here and seeing how it looks. And see if there's a difference, because I think that'll be important. Now you'll notice that this does take a little while to do. So while this is happening, I am going to kind of do some multitasking and jump over to this. So this is Quixel Mixer. If you've never played around with Quixel Mixer, it is part of the Quixel suite. And as part of the Quixel suite, it has all of the materials and textures and assets that you can bring in. But they've been doing some new texturing stuff. So let's start with the body. And I'm going to basically start with my local library. We'll do surfaces because I don't need assets. And I think we want to probably look at what would be best here. Rock? Floors? No, not floors. Rock. So some of these, the downside, just one thing you should be aware of is in Unreal 5 you cannot use displacement maps. So I'm going to have to be aware of that when I do this. So it's now putting this texture onto the body. And it should, when it's done, should start showing up. So you'll see this is like what the base texture of this body could look like right now. It is a 2x2 meter square, and I can come in here and play around with all this other stuff. Oh, it looks like it's finished. Here. So these are my unsaved. I know that they're unsaved because they have this little cube, and they also have this asterisk here. So I can drag and drop those in. Now they don't have materials on them, but you can see that this is basically what the character is going to look like. This is with no normal maps, no real texture maps of any kind, but that's what we're going to make here really quick in Quixel. So this is good to know that I imported it at the right scale, and it imported it, didn't take too long. I can probably delete this if I want, but this also gives us potentially some views for other shots. Obviously it's a T-pose character, so it's not the most interesting thing, but you can see the higher level of detail there. Helps actually quite a bit with what you're seeing in this. Let's just play around with the lights real quick. Ooh. So now that there's a little bit more detail on it, you can see as it's kind of coming around how it could be benefiting from that. Where's the person? Where'd they go? Oh, they're part of this other thing. You see that they're part of this other pose, which I don't really want right now. But they would be there. So this is something we can play around with. Seems outerworldly. That is kind of the goal. That is kind of the goal. Thank you. All right. Let's hide this now. This one, and this one, this one, this one. All right. File. Save. Minimize. And let's do our Quixel mixer test. So we imported one of those rocks. Now navigating in a different software. Need to learn the navigation again. So let's go to our online library. I think we were looking for Iceland. This will help us tie it into the world that we're already using. I do want surfaces only, so I can click on surfaces. That will make it so it's not bringing in 3D assets. Let's see like this mossy, rocky ground. Hit download. You'll see it'll take a second, and then we can add it to our scene. This is cool too, this moss. Let's get this one. This one's pretty cool. This one's cool too. So I'm just going to download some ones that are cool just because they take a little bit to download. Apologies if it affects the streams. Question about the school. Can you attend remotely? You can attend remotely with online classes, but you cannot do a full-time program. This is kind of interesting. Kind of reminds me of the pattern that's on there already. This one's cool too. So I'm just downloading a bunch of these. I can do this all day long. It's pretty fun actually. This mossiness is something that's on a lot of these textures, and we're going to start playing around with this a little bit and seeing what works with it and what doesn't. It's kind of cool. And then I want this lava one up here as well. All right, now that I've got all these and they're downloading, rather than sort through this list, I can go by my local library, which will make it a little easier just because it's a shorter list. And I can say, let's add, right now we have this Icelandic rock. Oh, it's repopulating. Let's do this mossy ground. And it's going to put it over here. It's going to take a minute to add it to the layer stack. And now you'll see that it's kind of coming in. Now again, Unreal 5 does not support displacements, so you'll notice that when I turn this off and on that the surface itself is displacing. We can't do anything with that. So what I'm going to do is up here in the top left, you can hit D, or you can just turn this off and it'll actually turn off the displacement. So you'll see this is with displacement and this is without displacement. I don't want the displacement, so I'm going to avoid that. There's a couple things that we're going to do in here. First is it's starting to override some of the base sculpt. That is okay. I don't necessarily mind that too much, but we kind of have to play with this a little bit. So I can come in here and try dialing in the height. The height isn't going to do anything, it looks like. I can also paint maps, which I'll show you in a minute. My keyboard is failing me. The opacity of it. And we can also play around with which one's on top. So if I want this one to be the main texture or the other texture that it's taking the albedo from. Let's start with this one first, though. Actually, I don't know if I liked this one. That was just the first one we grabbed, huh? Let's get this lava. I think I want to see what the lava looks like. Let's get this big jagged rock cliff. And let's get this one. And let's get this one. Did I get the moss? I'll play with that one at the very end. That's because I'm in rock. Sorry, there it is. Cool. We'll get these in there. So now that these are all in, they're loading. You can see they're kind of taking a minute. Now at first it's just going to look kind of like a mess. Not entirely sure what exactly is going on. We can also play around with what our lighting is. There's a hotkey to move the lighting, but I can't remember what it is. So this is more of a fluorescent environment. Not the best, but at least it shows you kind of what you're looking at. The studio is nice. I think it's, oh, there it is. Shift right click. So if I shift right click, I can move around this light. I know that I'm going to probably have a somewhat harsh light on it. Overcast is very dull. So it's kind of nice. All right, we'll use this. So as I turn all these off, certain things will happen. But we want to start dialing them in first. And I want to see which ones I like the most. So we have our jagged rock. That one without the displacement feels a little odd. Meaning like if I have it on and I turn on displacement, I'm sure it looks different. Or it makes those rocks pop a little more. This one's cool. I like this one quite a bit. Icelandic rock, that works for sure. And then this one definitely works as a top layer. So what we're going to do is play around with a little bit of the order of operations, I guess. And I could also do this on the head. So I could copy all this. Copy. To layer set, head. This will take a second, but in now the head group, because I created layer sets, and the layer sets go to different UVs. So effectively there's 3 different parts here. Turn all this off, hide this, and we could focus just on the head. And let's start turning some stuff on here too, so you can see what that'll look like. And this is probably a better place for me to start what the first one will look like. I definitely like this this one. It's got a really cool vibe to it, especially going with what I'm doing. I like this one, so we'll definitely be using that. This one I'm pretty questionable about. But I'm wondering, like, if I put it on other things, you can see how it kind of gives its influence to that, but it is kind of distracting. Whereas something like this is a bit better. So, all right, let's take this one first. I like this one. And we're going to play with the settings. So I can come over here on the right and click placement. Right now it's using a box projection. I can play around with the direction of how it's placed and the angle of which it's placed if I don't like that. So if I want it to be more vertical, I can come this way. I'm going to play with the radius of all this, how blurred it is, how not blurred it is. The scale of it, do I want it to be huge or do I want it to be small and super, super detailed? I'm going to make this somewhat big, and I think I'm going to go back off this and rotate it a little bit here. In here I can play with all this stuff. I'm going to turn off displacement because I don't need it. And I think that's a kind of a nice starting point for our stuff. It does work top to bottom. So if I put moss on top, it's going to override that, right? Whereas if I put the rocks on top, it's going to override the moss, and the moss will do very, very little. So let's put this in here. I like how this is going to be like a supporting piece. So we're going to come in here. I want to put some of this lava in here too. So that base one's adding some nice big texture gouges, basically. You kind of see them. Nice little bit of extra detail there. Now the lava, I want to play around with this a little bit. What I'm going to do is I can come in here and I can start adding masks or materials or different things here. So a surface layer is what we already have. But if I come in here and I start adding a noise layer or a paint layer or all these different kinds of things, you can play around with how it's set up. So I want to add a mask to this. You can also come down here and add a mask and a material ID, paint layer, or a group. I'm going to do a mask stack on this. And on the right, you're going to see I can click on this and I can say, do I want to add a mask component or a mask modifier? Let's do a component. I want to do based off of the curvature. Let's see what we can get out of this. Default curvature. Base normals. Just kind of seeing what we're getting out of this. It will automatically create maps for you, which is pretty cool. So I can also say edges only. So if I just want the edges or if I just want the cavities, I can kind of get this. This is probably not the best example to show you on because it's so hard to see the difference. So I'm going to open up the moss. You can see that here, and I'm going to click the same kind of thing. We'll taking a mask stack. I'm then going to come in here and we'll say mask modifier. That actually goes on something, but we'll do this one. Noise pattern normal. So now it's basing it off of the normal. What that means is you can actually see that it's saying only from this direction is it going to be creating that, and I can dial that in over here by saying what direction I want the moss to appear. Now typically moss grows on one side, but it also is probably going to grow more in the top than in the bottom. So now the top parts are going to have a little bit more green than the bottom. And that's just because of this mask. I can say below if I want, so it's only coming from the bottom. I can say the top here, so it's only coming from the top. And I can keep adding more of these, so I can come in here and say maybe in the normal, in the, was it normal? What was the one we did on this one? Curvature. Come in here, delete this, do the curvature, and we'll say in the cavities only. So right now it's only going to be in the cavities. How tight is it? Just kind of inverting it, seeing what it would look like. So this is like the moss is not growing in the cavities, which is kind of cool. And you basically play around with this forever until you get a bunch of stuff that you like. And you can also, I think, you have to drag and drop these around. So I want to get this one too. This one I like as an overall texture. But I want to come in here and do that same kind of thing, creating a mask stack. Curvature, I want this one to only be in the cavities. Underlying mix, I want it to be based off the base normals. It's looking a little crispy there. Just going through all these settings and making sure that they're the way that I want them. I would like this one to be a little bit more intense. Kind of like what this is doing, but it's making it a little sharp. I think it needs it though. I'll delete that one. Delete that one. Let's start with that. I have all this stuff over here. I'm going to delete it all. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to copy this to the arms or to the body. Let's do it to both. We should definitely save. We're going to copy this to the body. Hello, Nutavut's here. Mecha Knox from Twitch is here. Hello, welcome everybody. We're just texturing this character very, very quickly in Quixel Mixer, getting it all set up. This is kind of phase 1 alpha of getting it working. So you can see the base now characters here. A little bit one note, right? So we can come in and adjust all this stuff, and definitely was something I want to do. I can come in here and I can also paint masks. So we'll play around with that really quickly on the head. So let's come in here and take this all, right click, we'll make it a group. We'll just call this main body or main texture. We're going to come in here and we're going to add a new surface layer. I want something that's going to be like the inside of this. Something that would be like a cavity. So let's do like that lava one was pretty cool. This one's pretty cool. So I'm going to bring back this. I'm going to put it here, above that. It's going to take a second. It basically overrode everything we're doing. That's fine. What I want to do now is I want to take this. I want to make a paint layer on this. I'm going to invert the mask. And I also will be able to basically paint out sections where I don't want it to do that, which is pretty cool. I want to fill. Is there a fill button? I feel like there should be. Let's clear the mask. Let's make our brush size pretty big. Let's just try this. I can also work in 2D view, which basically means I could just paint it all out in this view. Probably a little faster than painting it in the 3D view. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint, or I can just erase sections of it. we're going to set this up. This is also going to set us up to do a nice little mask for the future. I'm going to do like a smaller brush. That looks a little weird. I'm going to try to get some glowing lights in there. I believe you can do an emissive layer, so let's see if we can do that. You can see the difference of basically just painting that in really quickly. And I'm going to probably do that a little bit in a minute as well. You also show the topology in the UVs. You're very curious. Is it made with UDIMs? It's not made with UDIMs. It's three different pieces. So the head is a piece, and the arms are a piece, and the body is a piece, and they each have their own textures that I'm creating right now. All right, let's see. Let's try to make a new layer. I think you can make an emissive. Let's check. Because that's what I want. Of course, now that I say that, I'm not entirely sure you can. Occlusion, displacement rough, specular. Because what I'm hoping to do is make an emissive material. Now, what I can do is I can always come in here and make like some sort of an object that I can just put in there. And that'll be pretty easy too. So I'll probably try that instead if this isn't going to work. But I can come in here and do all kinds of fun stuff with this. I can paint in general. So if I want to paint certain parts of this that maybe would have different wear on it, you can come in just like you would in Substance Painter or something like that and add a little bit of this material. And then come back in the arms. I'm going to have to copy this to the other pieces, but I'm probably going to do this on a couple of these edges where I want the edge to kind of feel like it's a different type of a rock. I could also duplicate this, so duplicate the layer, come in here. Is it quite similar to use Mixer compared to Painter? I'm not a huge Substance Painter expert, so I'm probably the wrong person to ask there. But from what I understand, it's pretty similar. Except this one is going to be a little bit more simple. Realize I didn't actually paint on that side. The nice thing about this one, as compared to Substance, is that you kind of get a whole Megascan library. So every single thing that you're doing, you know, has that library to pull from, which is cool. All right, I was going to duplicate this one. So now I have this one and this one. I'm going to delete the mask on this, clear that painted mask. I'm actually just going to delete said layer mask. Oh, I thought that was just going to do the layer mask. It did not. Delete mask. There we go. So now I have it here. I'm going to come in here and add a mask stack. I'm going to try to do a cavities. You can also do position, which is kind of interesting. Position basically is like top bottom. That's actually probably what I should have done the other one. Let's try that real quick. Come over here. Let's turn this off, do a position gradient. This is back with the moss. Or I could make it feel like it's from the top. So you can see there's like a general gradient that I can make happen. You can also stack all this. So this is it generally, and this is it kind of now. I can also reorder these. I kind of like this, but I want it to not be nothing. You could do this with all kinds of gradients and stuff though. Or if you want to go to below, all this fun stuff. Mesh and underlying. I wish that it didn't delete it all. Because it's like removing everything from below it, which I don't want. Alright, I'll just delete that. It's kind of working. We'll play around with that more. Alright, so that's our painted in part. This is the one that we want to play with on the position gradient, which is actually we learned was not what we wanted. We're going to come in here and make the curvature map. Something you can do is you can come in here sometimes and just say, like, let's adjust the albedo. So you can actually see what you're looking at. You can copy the hex value if you don't want to lose it. So this is what is actually being applied in this red layer here. So I know that it's not doing what I want. It's going to the surfaces. It's not going to the cracks. Now it's just kind of doing these edges. Is this a stone golem? It is a stone golem. Yeah, it's been a while since, I don't do a ton of bigger texturing either, and this is kind of a fun project to do. So I can kind of dial in where that's going to go. It's on the curvature. I want it to be, maybe I should have done cavity. That's why. I was doing a default curvature. You can do edges. You can do default curvature, which is just the base curvature. You do cavities, and then you can do edges and cavities. I just want cavities. And I want this to be not as tight. The levels can be a little bit looser. And then I can come in here and turn this back into the color that I had, and that gives a little bit of that color in there. Let's do the same kind of thing with this moss. You'll see that this basically gives a little bit of that texture to the head, or some color direction to the head. I'm going to make a group, and we'll call this the head details. I'm probably going to pull the moss out of that, so it's sitting on top of everything. And let's come in here and do the same kind of thing. We'll copy this hex code. And we'll make it a bright color, so we see where it's going. So we see now it's kind of working, but it's not necessarily exactly what we're doing. So we want some of these things to do different things. So the curvature right now is going to be cavities only. I think I want default curvature or edges and cavities. Let's do default, adjust the tightness of that, and clamp the levels a little bit. This will give us a more clear idea of where it's going. We can always, adjust them more. This is going to get some more of that ringing that I wanted. That was from the original thing. It's probably more accurate if it's sitting on the top. A bit brighter. So this is all going to be the moss color. Let's turn on our normal. And this one should be putting it from a certain normal direction. It should be affecting the overall mix, the mesh and the underlying mix. So it's only removing and adjusting, or should be, from where we're at. This is the angle at what it's going. I want it to come from different parts of the model. So this would basically put it more on the back side. And this would put it more on the front side. And then let's try adding that position gradient and see what that does. Should. So this one feels a little odd because it's deleting. So I'm wondering if it needs to be like at the bottom. But then it doesn't appear to do anything. So I'm not sure exactly why this one is overwriting everything. So that one seems to be odd. I can turn down the opacity. Working off a concept, or I just doing my own thing? Just doing my own thing. Do I still prefer Maya for the blockout phase? No, I prefer Zbrush now. And we'll start with this. We'll come back in here. Get some of that moss in there now. So you can see it start to have a little bit more texture detail in here. We're going to probably just copy this stuff over to the other elements just really quickly. And then we'll go from there. So I want to copy this group here. So this one, copy to the body. Oh, we got a ghost. See, it's kind of doing a weird thing. So we'll show that only. We'll work on the body. We'll hide the head. Hide the arms for now too. So this one was using a paint mask. I would have to paint that in. We'll do that in a second. This one is using the cavities. So you can see what it's actually doing already. Is all of those cavities are getting a little bit of extra punch. This is an area that I actually want to add some other type of a detail on top. So I thought it could be interesting. So let's see what we can do online. We'll search for a metal. I thought a metal could be interesting. So let's pick a metal. And I just want to see if it looks interesting or cool. So let's do a gold. or bronze. This is bronze. Just sure. I don't know if I like the bronze. Let's see what other metals we got. Surfaces only, metals. This is online, so we're browsing. I don't really care about all these ones. The bronze is just kind of dull. It was just kind of a one note. All this is pretty worn. There we go. Want something with some detail in it. Not that I can't add it to it, obviously, but I kind of like this one. This copper. Let's download the copper. And let's put it in here. It's going to load. It's going to take a second. It's going to look weird when it's done. Ta-da. But I want to come in here and make a mask stack. With the mask stack, I want to do curvature. I want to do edges. I want to do edges from the base normals. So instead of getting it from just the mesh, so the options I have here are my underlying mix. The underlying mix is everything that you see here on your screen, right? All this stuff up here is going to be, it's basically going to add copper in the highlights or the edges wherever I want it to be. But I have the option here of saying the base normals, the current layer, right? So this will make it a bit more bland, the mesh itself, or the normals. So that I did make a normal map for this, and that's where I can kind of get this material to just be on the edges of my normal. Now I can come in here and also tighten this. This is kind of what I was imagining, was something that would be a little bit tighter, so that it almost just has like an edging to it. Hey everybody, welcome if you're joining for now. And then I can levels this to give it a little bit more specific. And kind of what my idea was that there would be just a little bit of this poking through, as if this was, you know, some ancient golem that had a metal-ish facade underneath it, or material, but it's been in the wilderness for so long that it's kind of been covered. So I kind of like that. And you'll see how that pops it off of the rest. So this is with it, and this is without it. Kind of like that. This is the paint layer that I need to paint, even though that looks kind of cool too, but we'll come back to that in a minute. So what I need to do is I actually need to copy this layer. I just want to copy, head. And then when I put it, I guess the moss should be above all that though. Yeah. We're going to put it here. Duplicate layer, that's fine. Once it's duplicated, I should be able to drag it up here. Once it's duplicated, there we go. Now the head is starting to have that as well. So we're going to do the same thing. To the arms. We gotta do a couple more things actually to the arms. So the arms do not have, it has to regenerate the normals for all of these, so it takes a little bit for it to populate it. You see there it is, starting to pop through. I need to get this one on the other layer. There we go. Oop, I dragged the wrong one. It is being real slow. It's going to put some of those cracks to have that kind of darker crevice in there. Then I'm going to spend probably 5 minutes just adjusting this copper real quick, and then I think we should try exporting it into Unreal and seeing what it looks like. So we'll save very quickly. The export is probably take a couple minutes because it's going to have to generate all the maps. I don't want to have too little time. So this and this is a group. Main texture. This is a group. I guess that's part of that. This needs to be out of that. There we go. Okay, I'm happy with the body. I want to come in here to the arms and play with this mask a little bit. Let's take the tightness of that way down. And we'll play with the levels. I think I want it to go this way. It's getting a little slow on me. That's fine. And then let's come up to our head and do the same thing. Okay. Now I'm eventually probably going to put some stuff in there for the eyes. That's okay. We're going to save this one time. And we're going to export this into Unreal. So we're going to go into export. And instead of choosing a custom place, I can do that, but I'm going to choose it in my library. This is going to go into my Quixel Bridge. It's a 3D asset. It is a miscellaneous. I'm going to choose the maps that I want. I want them to be at 4K. And I'm going to pick all these maps. Now the problem right now is I don't need all these maps, but it's probably going to spend time trying to make them. So I need to go my setup, edit my texture sets. That's not right. We'll see if I can just force it. Let's just do it anyways. We'll do it anyways. It'll take a minute. But now it's going to run through on the bottom left here, which you can't actually see because of the overlay. But it's here. It's going through and it's generating, exporting all these maps. So it's exporting 3 of these maps that are all going to be in 4K, and it should be, if we cross our fingers, in our Quixel Bridge here in just a little bit. So it's probably going to take a minute or two. While it's doing that, jump back into Unreal. So this is the size of the character. I'm going to turn off this fog, even though it looks cool. Size of the character, where they will be placed. I like this lighting. I'm not sold on it. I want to see what the textures look like in there. The character is kind of darker colors, so I'm not entirely sure, what this will look like once it's in here. It might be kind of dark like all of this is, and that might need me to boost the light a little bit or find a way to make the lighting slightly more, you know, even, meaning this is kind of in daylight. This is what this stuff looks like. So, getting this all set up, it's been pretty fun. So we're going to wait for that. I also have the posed version in here for anybody who's just joining. There's that light. There's the fog. There we go. This is kind of what we're working with in our scene right now. And so as soon as this is done exporting, we're going to go ahead and pop this in and see what it's looking like. But it is taking a little while. Oh, well, maybe not. Let's see. It's moving, which either means it's done or it crashed. So let's see if I can find it. Quixel Bridge. Let's see if I have anything in here. I'm curious if the Quixel Bridge for Unreal 5 works like this. Because it should have sent it to my library. Now what I'll see, and I'm going to minimize some things real quick, is in my other bridge, oh, I may have just run out of disk space, everybody, so we're going to have to take a second. Hang on. Let's see. Oh yeah, we're in trouble. Let me close some things. All those downloads, they take a lot of disk space. And I just cleared up 100 gigs last night. Because I'm not seeing it in my library yet. So I'm loading my other version. So you'll see this is my other version of Bridge, not the Unreal 5 version of Bridge. And you can see there's things that I have exported. And it has a separate area here under Megascan, which has a mixer tab. This is where it should be mixing or sending these mixes to. But I'm not seeing it. So I'm not sure where this went. Oh, this is where I could have turned those off. We could have turned... I don't need that. Texture maps. Why is it so dark? Like I don't need displacement. Don't know why it's not letting me do that. Alright, I'm going to save this. I could come in here and make it, so I might just do that. So we'll do it a subfolder test. I don't want displacement. You should use Blender. Is it easier or harder than Blender? It's just different. Very different. Export the model. Yeah, sure. Let's export the model as an FBX. Copy to the export location. We don't need the source model. Okay, we're going to try to get this out. Export to disk at 4K. This might take a minute. So we'll try this again. This was the only part that I had not tested, which was, you know, whether or not it would bring in a model. From this. So I need to come in here before that happens. See. It says it's exporting, which is good. But I'm not seeing it in this bridge. And I'm not seeing it in this bridge. What if I reboot it? Content, Quixel bridge. Local. 3D assets. Nope. Just looking for something. I don't see anything. So as soon as this gets done, we'll try importing it. It should be done. We're going to go to this location. And it did give me this setup here, so we can try importing this. I'll import to this area. Where did it put it? Exports. Let's try this. Make it a nanite mesh, that's fine. All right, let's try. Is this Unreal 5 or 4 when I get out of Mixer? Right now it's Unreal 5. I've had good success with the bridge, exporting stuff from Quixel Mixer to the bridge in 4, but this is my first test trying to do it in 5 and it's not showing up, so I'm wondering if that is a bit of a broken pipeline right now. Alright, looks like it's these. The materials appear to be broken. And I think it's these. So the materials, even though they're there, didn't really work. Okay, that's not fun. So I could set it up. I was just really hoping this would automatically work, considering we textured it in their program, sent it to their location, and it didn't do it. Kind of annoying. Alright, I'm going to troubleshoot this for a little bit. But if anybody has questions, please feel free to ask. Alright, so what material is it on? Just like a basic material. Oh, it's been so long since I put a texture. Scene texture. It's been so long since I made a material in Unreal. And these are all instanced assets. But I could do this. Duplicate, put it in here. Do you know what the software is for the industry standard for concept art? For concept art, no, there's not a specific standard. I would say probably Photoshop is the most standard one of anything, but Zbrush is a big one. Blender is a big one, but Photoshop is probably going to be the bread and butter. All right, let's get all of these assets into our folder here. So we're importing them all. They're all here now. Now what I can do is I should be able to just drag and drop these in once it's auto-save. Thank you. You want to watch my Stan Winston ZBrush creature sculpting? Thank you. That's awesome. That was a long time ago now. It was a fun one though. Alright, so we're going to come over here, make sure we got the right thing, close this, click here, double click, open that. In here too. Textures. Albedo. This is the body. So the body should go here. The AO, the normal, should go here. That, I don't know about that. So it's kind of there. We probably want like that's the albedo tint, saturation, metallic map. Where's the base map? Which software do you find more comfortable to work with the process of retopology and UVs for production? For me, I'd use Maya. Now I want to do a quick test. It's probably not going to work on this character because it's multiple pieces. So we're going to have to export them again in a minute. It's kind of working. So let's quickly just get that in. I know there's a couple other, it's giving me metalness, which I want to do, but for some reason the metalness isn't working as a file, which is confusing to me. do a quick test. So I'll probably have to play with these later because I'm struggling to figure out exactly where it is. But we'll make a quick one of these. We'll duplicate this. We'll put this on here, in here. We'll get to our textures. We'll say this was the arms. And the normals. And then we'll come back in here, go back one. We'll duplicate this. We'll drag it to the head. Click on the head. We'll click here. We'll go back to the textures. Oh, here. That didn't look like I had the right one. There we go. Textures. Scroll down. Head. Normal. There's a metalness map here. Can I just put this in here? Oh, yeah, that worked. Alright, well, let's do that here too. Okay. Alright, so we're quickly saving this, getting it all there. Do you please time me if you don't? But the difference between displacement and bump? Sure, the difference between displacement and a bump map is a displacement can actually affect the surface, meaning the actual silhouette of the surface, whereas a bump map cannot. That's the biggest difference. Alright, so I need to export this, not necessarily this one, but this one now as multiple pieces. So I need to go down, and I'm going to have to export those all at the level that I want. So I'm going to first just go delete. We're going to try to do this in 5 minutes. Texture map new from Polypaint. Great, it works. We're going to do new from Polypaint. Great, it works. And we're going to do new from Polypaint. Great, it works. Okay, going down to the subdivisions in which I was using it. This one at here, and then this one here. I don't have anything else visible, so I'm going to go into the FBX exporter, smoothing the normals, exporting it, and saying to Unreal Pose A. Now, it's not actually going to work at first. It's going to take a minute to do all this exporting. But once it's done, we can export it, and I actually have to adjust it in Maya. So it's going to take a minute, but I'm going to have to re-bring it into Maya. You'll see this is where I had to... what I did was I basically just made sure it was looking good, put it at the right size, and it was in ZBrush incredibly small. So what I had to do is I had to scale it by 1,000 times before I exported it. Otherwise, it was very, very, very small, like tinier than this person's toenail would be. So, but nice to know that this is working. So we'll get that in a minute. Should be exported now. Okay, come into Maya. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to import where did I export it? Exported it in the sculpts folder. Of course I would. To Unreal Pose A. It's importing the object now. We'll be done here in about 5 minutes, everybody in the stream. First off, I just want to say if you're hanging out the whole time, really appreciate it. Thank you for hanging out. There it is. I'm going to make sure that all of these have UVs. Yep. Great. I'm going to grab it all. I'm going to group it. I'm going to move the pivot down to the bottom. I'm going to move it up to the top, and then I'm going to, in this group, scale it by 1,000. And then I'm going to select it, and I'm going to export it as an FBX. And this is to Unreal Pose A, FBX. Do you want to replace it? Yes. It's exporting in the bottom left, which you can't see here. It says it's hopefully done. Great. So now we can come in and kind of do what we already did, but we're going to come in here, and in this folder, I'm going to import my sculpt to Unreal Pose A. It's going to take a second. It's going to say, do you want to be a nanite mesh? I'll say sure. Import all. Great. Then I'm going to drag and drop these materials onto the new pose, and I'm going to delete this character when it's in. And that will probably be where we end for the stream. Next week, what I'll be doing is basically finalizing this. Hoping to have a guest artist on. We'll see. Crossing my fingers. And basically get the final composition, do any little paint overs, any last adjustments, and we will hopefully wrap it up. But we'll still be working in Unreal. Maybe a little bit more work in Quixel, but we'll have to see. I'm curious. Once this is in, I want to quickly adjust the lighting and see how that holds up. So we'll see what I have to do or not do after this. This is kind of a quick snapshot, though, for everybody who's watching. You know, the model I'm loading in is probably 100, more than that, probably 1 million polys. So it's not small. It's not light at all, but it is something that takes a little bit of time to load in. But this is what you're seeing is the pipeline to load objects into Unreal that are high poly. It is fast once it's in engine. Like, you could probably see how quick that was. But to just get assets in, and you can see it's here a little bit because of the compute working. To get assets in, it does take time to convert things to nanite, and it's not an instant snap of the fingers thing. There we go. And then it's done. I'm going to delete this object, delete this object, delete this object. We're going to bring in these. This is the one with the proper topology, proper texture maps. We're going to take these, and I don't know which one went to where. That looks like I guessed right 3 times in a row. Voila. Just going to kind of place it since it's 3 different objects now. Doesn't need to be perfect, because I'll tweak that a lot later. I'm going to delete these, even though we'll lose those orbs. Rest in peace. Turn on. First off, we're going to save all now, just because. Turn on that fog. Get our other window up. Our viewport 2. Viewport 2 is going to be our scene actor. And then we're going to have the ability for me to move that light. Where is it? There it is. I think it's kind of working. The fog is maybe a little dense. And I think I need some detail to it. But here we are. We're getting there. So we got our character in Unreal 5, textured in Quixel Mixer. I think we're pretty close. We got a lot of work to do, but I think within the next week it should be pretty fun. And I'm looking forward to finishing it. So for everybody who's just joining or just watching now, thank you very much for watching the stream. It's been a fun one. Excited to finish up this character next week. So if you're interested in this, stay tuned. If you're interested in what you're watching, I would like, follow, subscribe on our channel. There's a ton more stuff and more streams happening. So there'll be a lot of those. Check that out. We also have one tonight from 8 to 10 p.m. with Jared Krzyzewski. One tomorrow with Art Jam, one on Friday. If you want to watch a short be created in Unreal 5 from scratch, we have all that stuff for you. So look forward to seeing you in the chat soon, and I'll have a good day. I hope you guys have a good day. Bye, everybody.